If you happen to have a spare room or property that you're not currently using, you can always rent it out to guests by becoming an Airbnb host. This type of side hustle is exactly what drew us to the platform in the first place. But that's not the only way to earn a passive income with the service. As Airbnb continues to expand what kinds of services and features they offer, people are starting to figure out how they can build a successful business of their own through the Airbnb platform. The biggest misconception is that you have to own a property to start earning income with Airbnb. While it's true that owning apartments, condos, and cabins certainly increases your chances of making bank with Airbnb, another way to get around the risk of buying and holding properties is through Airbnb rental arbitrage. If you don't know what that is just yet, don't fret. In this video, we're breaking down Airbnb rental arbitrage for you to give you the rundown on how it works. We'll also tell you how to start making money with it. But as with just about anything, there are a few risks to look out for as well. We'll key you in on what they are and what you can do to protect yourself from these potential dangers. After covering the basics, we'll also take a minute to explore how you can maximize your profits with Airbnb rental arbitrage. So let's get started. First, what is Airbnb rental arbitrage? Airbnb rental arbitrage involves renting properties and then subletting them out on the Airbnb platform. As home prices continue to skyrocket, it's becoming increasingly difficult to own property. But with this proven strategy, you can start earning income without having to take on all of the stresses, risk factors, and challenges of owning a property yourself. To really understand how this process works, consider this. If you were to rent a property for, let's say, $1,500 a month, and then you sublet that out on Airbnb at $150 per night, you would be able to pay off your rent in as little as 10 days. That means after you've covered your overhead, which would be your monthly rent and maintenance costs, then the remainder of the month's rental income is pure profit. Short-term arbitrage allows you to grow your savings so that eventually you could even buy your own property if you wanted to. You can either use this Airbnb arbitrage to build up savings so that you can eventually buy your own property, or you can just run it as a business entirely on its own. Now, I don't want to make it sound like rental arbitrage is a walk in the park. There are many expenses to running short-term rentals that you might not have thought about yet. Cleaning costs alone, especially if you hire a cleaning service to cover that for you, can stack up quickly. Then you have to think about building maintenance, amenities, utilities, taxes, and other fees. Airbnb arbitrage is also not for every market, but we'll touch on that a little bit more in just a moment. You also shouldn't think of this as entirely passive income. While much of the process can be automated, you'll still have to put in a bit of work to get started, and then you'll have to diligently stay on top of things to maintain a high user rating on the platform. So, is Airbnb rental arbitrage even legal? Generally speaking, the answer to that question is yes. But to make sure that you are doing everything legally, you'll have to look into the short-term rental regulations in the area where you're thinking about doing business. A quick Google should be able to answer this for you in your area. But be warned that the laws pertaining to short-term rentals are rapidly changing in most major cities across the globe. You'd be wise to first make sure that rental services like Airbnb are permitted in your city, and that there isn't a limitation on the number of nights you can sublet your property out to guests on an annual basis. If vacation rentals are permitted in your region, you should also look into whether your local government will require you to obtain a hospitality license before renting out your space. But really, before you do all of that, you should first make sure that your landlord is okay with the short-term and vacation rental arbitrage. Since you'll be using their home, you need to get them on board with the idea. Convincing your landlord. Landlords usually have clauses written into their rental agreements that forbid subletting or only allow it on a limited case-by-case basis. If you don't heed this advice, you'd be putting yourself in danger of getting evicted, which can be a costly and not to mention stressful process. And beyond that, it could also negatively impact your credit score. Furthermore, your landlord might raise some questions about things like noise complaints and parties. And that's no surprise because they're naturally going to be looking out for their best interests first, since they own the property. They may also bring up the issue of insurance. Who exactly is going to cover any damages to the home? The best place to start here is by explaining how your landlord will benefit from letting you execute this business model. For example, you would now be vested in the upkeep and cleanliness of the home because it would improve your business on Airbnb. It's a win-win because the landlord knows you will go above and beyond to keep the house in good shape. And as a result, you get permission to run the Airbnb arbitrage model. Once you know for sure that your landlord is okay with the strategy, the next thing to do is ensure that you're protected and covered in the event that the property sustains any damage, your guests get injured, or natural disaster strikes. Airbnb makes this really simple with their host protection insurance, but you could also look into other insurance options for additional coverage. And whether your landlord is concerned about safety, noise, damage, or having trustworthy guests, there are tons of tools that you can implement to strengthen your business and win over your landlord. First is AutoHost. With this tool, Airbnb will analyze and verify guests' information and flag any problematic guests. Your guests will also receive their check-in instructions automatically. Next is NoiseAware. Noise complaints are a big deal. Not only does a noisy guest run the risk of ticking off others renting or living in a building, but law enforcement could potentially get involved. With NoiseAware, hosts can use non-invasive decibel sensors that will make sure that your guests don't get too loud. They also offer 24/7 call center support, where your guests will receive a phone call from an authorized agent if things get a little too noisy. Next is Insure a Guest and Safely. These two companies use algorithms to calculate various risks and provide coverage beyond what Airbnb offers. Again, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where something goes wrong and you're the one left to cover the bill. You really want to make sure that you have all of your bases covered before you start renting out someone else's property. You might think this goes without saying, but it is an issue that a lot of people tend to overlook. Know your costs and your risks. If you've ever rented an apartment or house before, then you know that there are a ton of hidden fees and costs other than just the monthly rental fees. We won't go too into detail here, but some of the most common costs associated with renting a property include application fees, deposits, utilities, insurance, legal fees, toiletries for Airbnb, maintenance, furnishings, Wi-Fi, and cleaning services. Remember, your net profit all comes down to one simple equation: total income minus total costs. A good rule of thumb is to overestimate your starting costs, as it's always best to err on the side of caution when you're just getting started. And don't just assume that your property is going to be rented every single day. While you might have the potential to earn thousands of dollars a month, if you lack bookings due to seasonal cycles or something like travel restrictions, your earnings could drop pretty quickly. It's best to map out these potential risks and calculate what you need to stay in the green when you're facing each of these issues. Tips to maximize profit. A little research can go a long way. Identifying the best cities to invest your time and resources into is key to maximizing your profit. A property in a rural area, for example, might not do quite as well as an urban rental unless it's positioned nearby some kind of popular attraction or destination. But on the other hand, rental properties in cities are going to be a lot more expensive than those off the beaten path. You can always use services like Zillow and other real estate analytic websites to help you gain a better idea of what your monthly rent might look like. Data aggregators such as Key Data Dashboard and Wheelhouse Pro can also be helpful for tracking and forecasting short-term rental markets. Another excellent tool to lean on is AirDNA, which is a leading provider of short-term rental data that also offers a ton of useful tools to help you estimate the markets for AirBnB arbitrage in your region. Optimizing your listing. You'll struggle to book any guests and therefore make any money through rental arbitrage if you don't work on improving your Airbnb rankings. If you've ever rented a stay on Airbnb, then you've probably checked the host star rating and reviews before booking. These days, that's pretty much how anything works. And this means you're going to have to go out of your way a bit to increase traffic to your listing. But there are a few different ways you can go about this. First, ensure that every part of your listing is up to snuff. You'll want to have several aesthetically pleasing photos of the rental property, as well as a well-worded description and enticing host profile description. You might even want to consider hiring a professional photographer to capture photos of the property in the best light. That may seem like a big, unnecessary expense, but you'd be surprised at how big of a difference it can actually make. If you need extra help optimizing your listing, there are numerous guides on the web for mastering your listing and converting viewers into guests. Automating your Airbnb business. At first, you'll have to diligently take care of your short-term rental operation on your own, but in time, you can automate many aspects of the process. Incorporating vacation rental software into your business can automate things like communicating with your guests, synchronizing calendars, and coordinating cleanings. A few other ways this software can be useful is with automated check-ins and checkouts, bookkeeping, and even monitoring home appliances. Airbnb Arbitrage Summary. Earning a little extra money on the side, or even a full-fledged income with Airbnb Arbitrage, is getting increasingly popular, as you don't have to own a property to become a host and start renting. By considering your overhead costs, conducting thorough market research, and obtaining all of the necessary permissions, be it from your landlord or local government, you'll be able to start to cover your rental costs and start earning profit as a full-time Airbnb rental arbitrage host. Then, by automating your business, not only will you be saving yourself a ton of time and energy, but you'll be able to start scaling the Airbnb arbitrage model and make some serious passive income. Drop us a comment below and let us know if you have any experience using Airbnb arbitrage, or if you have any tips or suggestions for a new renter just getting started. And if you're looking for other ways to make a few bucks on the side, be sure to check out this video right here about how we outsource an entire YouTube channel to make 6 figures every single month. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.